All right, looks like for the second scrimmage in a row, this was the depth chart defining scrimmage. Looks like the defense might have gotten the better of the offense. Looks like the defense may be a little bit ahead of the offense. Remember, Sark said one of the things that he was critical of in the first scrimmage, especially of the offense, was the fact they didn't take care of the football, turn the football over in the first scrimmage, I believe. In that scrimmage, there were 3 turnovers, and Sark was upset about that. Well, reportedly in this scrimmage, and by the way, shout out to all the great services. Shout out to Inside Texas doing a great job. Horns 24/7 does a really good job too. The Football Brainiacs, friends over there, do a good job, and Orange Buzz. So we kind of gather up reports from all these really, really good sources and throw them out there. And the early word, Horns 24/7 says that the offense suffered two lost fumbles and 2 interceptions on the day. And one of those guys that's making plays, once again, Malik Muhammad, showed up and had a hand in forcing one of the offense's turnovers. Also looks like he may have had an interception too. So you got, that he's racked up a couple of takeaways in these 2 scrimmages. And remember, one of the spots he's competing for is that field corner spot. And I don't know exactly who won the competition. Terrence Brooks was also one of the guys who was leading in that competition. Right now, that's one of the open spots I can't wait to hear from Sark today. He's going to have immediate availability to see who they have as the number 1 field corner. Because right now, Malik Muhammad is definitely trending in the right direction. And Terrence Brooks is also a guy that Sark likes. Between those 2 guys, I do wonder if remember, Sark has mentioned that Malik Muhammad and Terrence Brooks can play both boundary and field.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're trying to get their best 11 on the field. We haven't heard about Ryan Watts' camp. I wonder if Ryan Watts is having a really good camp too. Because if not, then I wonder if the coaches are thinking about, hey man, we just need to get these young guys on the field in the rotation of corner, and now they can play boundary and field as well.
Well, it was Inside Texas, Eric Nalin, their insider, who had a nugget that senior quarterback Ryan Watts didn't have the greatest scrimmage. Mm-hmm. But he wrote, the way he wrote it, that's the price a corner pays for going against these wide receivers. Xavier Worthy's long bomb came at the expense of the boundary corner. And by all accounts, and people I heard from, Rod, to your point on Friday about using motion to create free get-off for the receivers, Xavier Worthy was the one that was moving, doing that Devontae Smith role that you talked about at Alabama, where he was constantly in motion and freed up to, hit the ball is snapped and he's already moving. And if you can't get hands on Xavier Worthy and give him a free release,
that's trouble.
You played corner, you're going to have a problem.
That's trouble. Once you give him, you're talking about giving him a full speed running start. He's already a vertical threat because he's one of the fastest guys, if not the fastest guy on the team. And then, one of the liabilities of his skill set is that he's slight. All right, his frame, he's skinny. Sark likes these speed demons, but they're a little slight and skinny. And so if I can get my hands on them and reroute them, that is tremendously advantageous to the defensive back. When Sark puts that guy in motion a ton, and we talked about targets at the snap, right? And we talking about targeting a player at the snap when he's still in motion. We call it targets to motion. That could be a really dangerous concept this year for Xavier Worthy, because now think about it, he's no longer typecast to be the deep guy. You got a couple of guys that can do that. Jonte Cook can do that. A.D. Mitchell can do that. Isaiah Nayor can do that. So you don't have to have him forced into a role on offense. You can do whatever you want with X-Men now because you have so many receivers like Jay Witt and Isaiah Nayor that can fill in different roles, and he can just be the featured piece of the puzzle.
and if you've talked about and sometimes complained about or criticized, Steve Sarkisian is going to take his shots. They're going to take deep shots, right?
Yeah, he ain't stopping.
And last year you knew it was going to be Xavier Worthy, right? He was your one.
He was your one deep threat. Yeah, and you didn't throw it to Jay Witt deep. No, you don't believe in that.
But you're right. They've got multiple guys who can do that now, which frees him up. And by all accounts, and even reports from Saturday, A.D. Mitchell had another really strong camp. So you've got a second. It's almost like they have 2 number 1 receivers. You watch it in Cincinnati with the Bengals for Joe Burrow, and you've got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You got two guys that are legit number one threats. That puts a lot of stress on a defense. The Longhorns feel like they can do that with those two guys. And, Jordan Whittington ain't bad. Isaiah Nayer's having a great camp. They do have weapons. And they didn't even figure in Jatavion Sanders, the tight end, into the passing game. That can be a problem because all accounts that I heard from and saw and read, Rod, that Quinn Ewers had a solid day. That Quinn Ewers is doing a good job of distributing the football. And according to one person I talked to who was in camp last year at the same time, said Quinn Ewers is miles ahead of where he was 1 year ago when he was battling Hudson Card for this job. Much more comfortable in the system, much more in control, and more weapons to throw to.
I think that's, there are more solutions for Sark now built within the offense, right, with all the personnel that they've acquired and that they've kind of upgraded at different positions. Last season, essentially, Steve Sarkisian was presented with a test and all these different problems to solve. But to me, it was an open book test, right? He had the answer was simply give it to Bijan, give it to Rojo, right? It was an open book test, and all
Coach,
the answers.
You can use your notes on this test.
Yeah, exactly. Remember that professor? You love that professor. He's like, all right, you've been taking your notes.
I don't know that I would have passed college algebra if I didn't have the open book.
Oh, with all the notes that I took, Robbie loved that. I was like, oh yeah, notes. Oh, I'm gonna kill it here. And some people were like, oh, I didn't take any notes. I'm like, oh man, too bad for you. But for Sark last year,
Sark needed one note. Give it to Bijan.
Give it to Bijan, right? That was the answer to every question on the test, which is, give it to Bijan. You don't even need multiple choice. Give it to Bijan with a side of Rojo. Put some Bijan on it. And this year he doesn't necessarily have that, those notes. He doesn't have that open book this year. But what he does have are solutions to different problems because he has all these very versatile weapons in the passing game. And more, and I'll give shout out to my man Jerry Hamilton, talking to him about this yesterday with the Inside Texas crew. Man, that offensive line this year, it's always important. But I do think in terms of pass protection, it's going to be really pivotal because there's no doubt. I think the identity of the offense, when we boil it down, is going to be the passing game. That's where all your strengths are. I mean, your strengths, you have so many weapons in the passing game. You're almost going to be forcing the running game. And by the way, C.J. Baxter, it was reported, also had a good scrimmage. So
freshman
that's good.
Running back.
Freshman running back. C.J. Baxter had an impressive scrimmage. Say he looked good, and that he's probably going to be number two running back behind Jonathan Brooks, who also continues to impress. And then you'll throw in Keelan Robinson, right? As kind of your, he's kind of the side dish to the main course of your running game, which will be Jay Brooks and C.J. Baxter. But I'm not saying the running game is not going to be good or it's going to. It's going to have a severe regression. But, man, we've watched Bijan and Rojo now in the NFL in the preseason. It's not going to be the same running game. It just won't be. And I think the strength will be the passing game, which means pass protection is going to be pivotal.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. And but the stress that the passing game can put on a defense will benefit the running game because they're going to have light boxes. I mean, having more coverage players on the field, not big thick linebackers trying to stop run game like it was last year, because a lot of times Texas was in heavy package trying to run that ball. As you've talked about, 6 offensive linemen at times. I think you'll see more field spreading, and you've talked about the empty formation from time to time. That's going to pressure a defense and open up running lanes because it's just there's so many weapons on the offensive side that the run game will benefit from just having that much stress on a defense.
Yeah, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I defend the Texas passing game first. And then I would almost open them up to try to beat me with the running game.
Yeah,
I think it's more for me if I'm a defensive coordinator, I like it more if Texas decide to beat me with the running game than the passing game. As we've just pointed out, man, the passing game just presents you with mathematical equations you just cannot solve as a defensive coordinator. If they're going to just run the ball, man, makes life a lot easier, and that means they're taking the ball out of the hands of their best weapons.
Well, that'll be a test again for Coach Sark this year. Will he be patient and take the yards? He's always had a 1,000-yard rusher wherever he's been the head coach or calling plays. He's always had a 1,000-yard back. If that's the case this year, it's likely to be Jonathan Brooks as a 1,000-yard rusher. But will Sark be patient with it and take those yards when they're there? Because I agree with you. I think most, including Nick Saban week 2 at Alabama, he's going to try to, and he's got 4- and 5-star corners that he can try to match up with your passing game.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting chess match or open book test, as you call it. We will see, because last year when it was just give it to Bijan, he wouldn't always just give it to Bijan. He would force it to a broken-handed receiver, you know what I mean? Over and over again.
That's very true. He learned late in the season, right? He learned in the Baylor game, Iowa State game. He learned later on, you know what? Maybe Darryl K. Roy, the late, great DKR, had a point, all right? When you throw the ball, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. And that happened for Texas in that Iowa State game, the Baylor game. That started to happen a little bit, and I think that's when Sark decided, you know what? Let's put some Bijan on it with a side of Rojo. And that's smart, but this year he won't have that luxury. He's going to have to find other solutions to the problem.
Somebody said on the text line, we appreciate your text, and the contribution says, I think Jay Witt is the college version of Anquan Bolden. You wonder if they'll try to weaponize him. We'll talk about that throughout the morning. Could that be a weapon, especially if you're in that spread formation, and all of a sudden, Jay Witt's all of a sudden behind the quarterback, and he could become a running back in that spot. Longhorns have a couple of guys, because remember, Savion Red, who's been battling an injury, is also cross-training from receiver to running back as well, and they like his power between the tackles.